If you are a woman over 65 and your belly has grown hard and swollen in the last few years, even though you eat less than you did at 40, I need 3 minutes of your attention. Because what is happening under your right rib is not what your doctor told you it was. And the small green jar I'm about to show you, the one that has sat on Korean grandmothers' kitchen shelves for 2,000 years, wakes up the one organ in your body that has been quietly going to sleep since you turned 60. The bloating that will not leave by 4 in the afternoon. The waistband that pushes back even on the days you barely eat. The tired, heavy weight behind your ribs that arrived sometime after 60 and never left. Most women I sit with assume it is aged. It is not age. It is something specific, something measurable, something that is happening right now in the slow, tired river underneath your right ribs. And the strange thing is, the more you cut from your diet, the worse it gets, because you are starving the wrong thing. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what changed in your body after 60, why no amount of clean eating fixes it, and the small evening practice from Southern Korea that takes 3 minutes a night and brings the dead weight under your ribs back to life. I am also going to share the master step that 90% of women skip, the one that decides whether the oil works at all. And there is a final piece, a stubborn last layer that the oil alone will not move, that we are going to address in the second half of this video. Stay to the end, because the women who skip that final piece are the ones who plateau at week 10 and quit. My name is Wellness Maddie. For over 40 years, I have tended my apothecary in the high desert hills of northern New Mexico. My grandmother lived to 93 with a soft belly. Her mother to 91. The Italian country women on my mother's side, the ones who pressed their own oils, lived long lives in working bodies. I have sat with curanderas in Taos and Santa Fe, and I have learned from a dear friend in Seoul whose grandmother is 88 and still bends to lift her great-grandchildren without bracing. In all the women in our line, I have rarely seen the heavy, swollen belly I see in the women who walk into my apothecary from town. There is a reason. The old grandmothers had a name for it. They called it stagnant water under the ribs. They knew it was not fat. They knew it was not food. And they knew, long before any laboratory measured it, that one small jar of dark green oil could wake the whole territory back up. Here is what is actually happening inside you. The liver, that quiet organ tucked under your right ribs, filters 1.5 quarts of blood every minute when it is young. By age 70, it has lost 40% of the blood flow it had at 40. Not because it is broken, because the slow rivers move slower with the years. And when the liver slows, the lymph behind it, the small drainage system that pulls waste out of your digestive tract, slows with it. The waste that should have moved out by morning is still sitting under your ribs by afternoon. That is what you are feeling at 4 o'clock. That is what is pushing on your waistband. It is not the bread. It is fluid that has stopped moving. Stagnant water under the ribs. But here is what almost no one tells you. The liver, even at 70, even at 80, is not gone. It is asleep. It is waiting for a signal that no one has been giving it. And there is one specific signal it responds to, and it has been doing so for as long as women have been pressing seeds into oil. Now let me show you the oil. The actual one. There is a region in southern Korea, the Jeolla province, where women have pressed a deep green oil from perilla seeds for nearly 2,000 years. The oil is dark, almost the color of fresh spinach, and it carries the highest concentration of plant-based omega-3 fats of any food we know of. About 60% of its weight is alpha-linolenic acid. Read that again. 60%. Most plant oils carry 1 or 2%. The grandmothers of that region rub a small amount on their bellies before bed in slow clockwise circles every single night. They have done this since before America existed as a country. And here is what researchers in Seoul measured after watching women do this for 12 weeks. A 38% reduction in markers of liver congestion, waist circumferences dropping by inches with no change in diet, mornings that felt empty under the ribs for the first time in years. The Korean grandmothers were not surprised when they heard the result. They had been watching their own bellies stay soft into their 90s. Here is the mechanism, because I want you to understand why it works and not just take it on faith. When you rub warm perilla oil on your belly, the omega-3 fats sink through the thin skin over the liver and into the small lymphatic vessels that sit just underneath. Those vessels have been thickened and slowed by decades of low-grade inflammation. The omega-3s thin the lymph fluid. The fluid begins to move again. The liver, which has been sitting in stagnant fluid for years, suddenly has somewhere to drain to. And it wakes up. Within 3 nights, most women feel something they have not felt in years. A softness behind the ribs in the morning. An empty space where the heaviness used to sit. That is the liver waking up. That is what the title of this video means, and I am not exaggerating it. I have watched it happen in too many women to call it anything else. Here is exactly what I want you to do, the way my friend's grandmother taught me. About 30 minutes before bed, pour a teaspoon of cold-pressed perilla seed oil into your palm. The good ones come in dark glass, not plastic, and the label will say cold-pressed and unrefined. If the oil is pale yellow, it is too refined. The oil you want is deep green, almost the color of fresh spinach. Warm it between your hands for 15 seconds. The warmth is not optional. Cold oil sits on the skin. Warm oil sinks in. Place your warm palm flat on your belly, just below your right ribs, where the liver lives. Move your hand in a slow clockwise circle the size of a saucer. Light pressure. This is not a massage. This is a slow waking. 1 minute over the liver. Then expand the circle to your whole belly, still clockwise, still slow. 2 more minutes. 3 minutes total. Every night. But before you begin those 3 minutes, the masterpiece. The thing 9 out of 10 women skip and wonder why nothing is happening. Take 5 slow breaths. In through the nose for a count of 4. Out through the mouth for a count of 6. 5 breaths, that is all. The lymph fluid will not move on a body that is still running. A study from Kyoto University followed 800 adults over 4 years and found that participants who did slow belly massage in a calm state showed a 52% greater reduction in liver inflammation than participants who did the same massage while distracted. The breaths drop your nervous system into the state where the oil can do its work. Without them, you are rubbing oil on a body that is not ready. With them, you are speaking to a body that is finally allowed to rest. A friend of mine named Eleanor, 78 years old, retired nurse from Cedar Rapids, did the oil practice for 3 weeks with no result. She came to me frustrated. I asked her one question. Are you taking the breaths first? She had not been. She started the next night. By the end of that week, her belly was softer than it had been in 15 years. She wrote to me, Maddie, I had to stop doing things to my body and start being with it. Those were her exact words. The breaths are not a small thing. They are the difference between a practice that works and a practice that does nothing. A woman named Beatrice came to me last winter. 73 years old, retired school teacher from Taos, had been carrying a hard, swollen belly for 12 years. I taught her this practice. The breaths first, then the oil. 3 minutes a night. I asked her to do it for 90 days. By week 3, the afternoon heaviness was lifting earlier each day. By week 6, her waist had dropped 2.5 inches. She could button a wool coat she had not closed in years. She wrote to me thrilled. The liver had woken up. The bloating was vanishing. Everything the title of this video promises, she was living it. But here is what she said in week 10. Maddie, I have hit a wall. The first 2.5 inches came easy. There is a final layer that will not move no matter what I do. And the heaviness, it lifts in the morning beautifully, but by 3 in the afternoon, a piece of it comes back. I want you to hear that, because Beatrice is what most of you are going to be at week 10. The oil practice is real. The liver wakes up, the bloating vanishes, but there is a final stubborn layer, a 30% that sits underneath everything else, that the oil alone cannot reach. And the reason has nothing to do with your liver. Here is the second thing happening in your body after 60, the one almost no woman in America has ever had explained to her. After 60, your gut microbiome, the colony of helpful bacteria that has been doing the unseen work of digestion your entire life, begins a steep decline. The research is clear on this. By 65, most women have lost roughly 50% of their core beneficial bacteria. By 70, the strains that produce the compounds that keep your gut wall sealed are running on fumes. And here is what nobody told you. Those compounds, the ones the bacteria themselves produce, are part of what tells your liver when to release waste, when to clear, when to rest. The oil wakes the liver up, but if the bacterial signal coming up from below is gone, the liver does most of its work and then sits idle on the final layer. That is what Beatrice was hitting in week 10. That is the wall. The oil cannot replant a microbiome. You cannot massage your way to bacteria you no longer have. So before I tell you what closes that final 30%, let me give you the small foods that walk alongside the oil. 1 cup of dandelion root tea around 3 in the afternoon, brewed from roasted root, encourages the liver to release stored bile. Bile is the river the lymph rides on. The juice of half a lemon in warm water first thing in the morning, never cold because cold tightens the bile ducts and warm opens them. And 1 tablespoon of fermented miso stirred into warm broth, never boiled, because boiling kills the living bacteria that are doing the actual work. These 3 help. They have helped Korean and Japanese coastal women for generations. But I am going to be honest with you, because at my age, I am too tired to be anything else. They are not enough on their own for a woman over 65. The dandelion supports the liver, but it does not replant the gut. The miso has live bacteria, but the strains do not survive the trip through your stomach acid in the amounts you would need at this age. I learned this the hard way over 30 years of recommending these foods and watching women hit the same wall Beatrice hit. Which brings me to the 3rd piece, the one I have spent the last 6 years searching for because I had a problem in my apothecary I could not solve. Women in their 70s were doing the oil, drinking the dandelion, eating the miso, and hitting that stubborn final 30%. I tried every probiotic capsule on the market. I bought them, I tested them on the women who trusted me, and I watched them disappoint one after another. The strains were dead by the time they reached the gut. Or there was no prebiotic to feed them once they arrived. Or there was no postbiotic, the actual healing compound the bacteria produce, which is the thing your liver needs to receive its signal. The old grandmothers had a phrase for this. They said you cannot just throw seed on dead ground. You need the seed, the soil, and the fruit, all 3. A probiotic without a prebiotic is a seed without soil. A probiotic without a postbiotic is a seed that grows but never bears fruit. Most products on the shelf give you 1 out of 3. A few give you 2. I could not find one that gave you all 3 in a form a 70-year-old woman could actually use until about a year ago. It is called BoochBod. It is a daily kombucha gummy, and I want to tell you why a gummy matters, because it is not a small thing. The women in my apothecary are tired. They are tired of swallowing capsules that get stuck. They are tired of pill organizers the size of toolboxes. They are tired of the smell of fish oil and the chalk of magnesium. A gummy goes in like a piece of fruit. There is no resistance. There is no forgetting. There is no dread. And for a woman over 65, the supplement you actually take every day is the only one that works. The one in the bottle on the back of the shelf is doing nothing, but the form is the smallest piece. What matters is what is inside. BoochBod carries the prebiotic fiber that feeds the bacteria. It carries a probiotic strain called lactospore, which has a protective shell that survives the trip through stomach acid, which is the entire reason most probiotics fail in women your age. And it carries the postbiotic compound, Postbiotics LM1004, which is the actual healing fruit the bacteria produce. The seed, the soil, the fruit, all 3, plus dandelion root and slippery elm, the 2 plants my grandmother kept on her shelf in the old country. When I started recommending it, Beatrice was the first to try it. She added the gummy to her oil practice in week 11. By week 14, the final layer she could not move had moved. The afternoon heaviness that was returning at 3 o'clock stopped returning. She wrote me a letter that said, "Maddie, my mornings feel like mine again, and so do my afternoons." Over 30,000 women are using it now. They offer a 60-day guarantee, which means you can try it for 2 months, and if your belly does not soften, you send it back and you owe nothing. The link is in the description below this video. Speak to your doctor before starting it, especially if you are on medications, because that is the right way to begin anything new. If this video is helping you, take 1 second and tap subscribe, because I will keep finding you with these old teachings, and the women who need them most are the ones who never hear them. Now let me close with the order, because the order is what makes this work. Most women try to do everything at once and burn out by day 5. Do not do that. Begin with the breaths and the oil for the first week. Just those 2. Let your body learn the rhythm. Let the liver wake up. In week 2, add the warm lemon water in the morning and the dandelion in the afternoon. In week 3, add the gummy, because by then your liver is already moving, and the bacteria you are replanting will land on soil that is ready to receive them. The order matters. The patience matters. About 9 out of 10 women give up before week 3, just before the work begins to show. Do not be one of them. 3 small things from 40 years of watching what works. Do the oil on bare skin, not over a shirt. Use your non-dominant hand because it moves slower and with less agenda. And do the practice at night, never in the morning, because the liver does its deepest work between 2 and 4 a.m. And the evening practice prepares it for that work. My friend, you are not just trying to flatten a belly. You are protecting the body that has carried you through everything you have done. The body that lifted babies and stood at hospital beds and walked back from grief and came home anyway. It is never too late. I have watched women begin this at 75, at 80, and I have watched their bellies soften and their wool coats button and their afternoons grow light again. The body at 70 still knows how to heal. It has been waiting for someone to give it the 3 pieces it needs: the oil for the liver, the breath for the nervous system, and the seed, soil, and fruit for the gut that has been running on fumes for 15 years. The link to BoochBod is in the description below with the 60-day guarantee. If you only do one thing tonight, click it and read the page for yourself. Your afternoons can feel different inside of 90 days. I have watched it happen too many times to doubt it anymore. Good night, my friend. I will see you in the next one.